biological weapons. Um, so it's one of the framework, one of the main framework for strengthening biosecurity at the national, regional, and international level. Really, you have others. You have, for instance, the International Health Regulation from WHO. You have the UN Security Council 1540. But the BWC is one of those instruments, and an important one. So 185 countries in the world are party to the convention, and most African countries are also party to the convention. Some are still not party to the convention, and still have to join it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let me just give you a quick overview into what I want to talk about today. It looks like a lot, but it's just a quick overview that I'll give on each topic. So I want to explain you first why is UNODA involved in getting youth engaged in the BWC, why we think it's important, and why it's a priority for us. And then I want to touch upon the Youth for Biosecurity initiative itself. So what are its objectives, vision of the initiative, what we are trying to do, and how we're trying to do it. The history and milestones of the Youth for Biosecurity initiative. It's been existing now since 2019, and we went together with the alumni a long way into developing it. So I want to talk about what we've done. Then I'd say a quick word, and I'll show you a video as well about the 2023 Youth for Biosecurity Fellowship that Peter was just mentioning, to tell you what we've been doing and what we're likely going to do also in the coming years. I'll talk about the network that we've now constituted around the Youth for Biosecurity initiative, the impact that we've had within the meeting of the BWC, and then I say a word about Africa in particular in the initiative before concluding with some hopefully operational messages. So starting with the strategic background. So why is UNODA doing youth involvement and disarmament instruments? So there are a number of resolution adopted by state parties, by member states of the United Nations that encourage the United Nations and the member states to promote the inclusive participation of young people in the discussion in peace and security affairs, including in disarmament. So one of the main resolution that gives UNODA a mandate and also encourage the international community to promote youth engagement in disarmament is the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 7645, titled Youth Disarmament and Non-Proliferation. So in these resolutions, all the member states of the United Nations agree and recognize the key role of youth in peace and security and in disarmament, and encourage the member states of the United Nations to promote the meaningful participation of young people in disarmament, including through, and here you have some options, including, you can see, fellowship, dialogue platforms, mentoring, youth group activities. So this event today, organized from GET, is very much one of those event that discuss youth inclusive participation and the Youth for Biosecurity as well. Then we have the Secretary General's Agenda for Disarmament that was published in 2018, in which the Secretary General, with our boss here in ODA, commits our office to further invest in disarmament education, including through the establishment of a platform for youth engagement. So this is the mandate that we have, and this is why we have developed the Youth for Biosecurity, among other initiatives. And in 2021, more recently, the Secretary General, in his Our Common Agenda, called again for more meaningful, diverse, and effective youth engagement in the UN decision-making processes. So you can see here as well a quote from the Secretary General identifying how the youth without use being part of those solutions, those solutions are much less sustainable. Peter already mentioned as well what use can bring as in terms of innovative solutions and new perspectives. So that's the background why we think it's a priority, why UNODA has been prioritizing youth engagement, in particular in the BWC. And as a consequence, the Youth for Biosecurity initiative was developed. The objective of the Youth for Biosecurity is really to include young voices in the multilateral discussions taking place in the framework of the BWC, with as a final overarching goal to strengthen the norm against biological weapons. So we really believe that the youth inclusion will lead to a strengthening the global norm against biological weapons, strengthening biosecurity, and that's our overall goal. Peter already said that any solution for involving use or for strengthening biosecurity relies on a state and is state-led to some extent. And I would agree with that, of course, and that's why the initiative, the Youth for Biosecurity, aims at including use in multilateral discussions happening in the framework of the BWC. Those multilateral discussions happen among state parties to the convention. So any solution and youth participation is particularly critical at those moments when state parties are discussing. So what the initiative is trying to achieve is really to bridge a number of gaps. One of these gaps is, of course, the generational gap. So the gap between the next generation, your generation, the youth generation, and the current generation of decision makers. So the youth today are the next generation of leaders, of decision makers. To some extent, they are already decision makers in their own community. They already have a lot of experience. They already they're already leaders in their community at the local, regional, national level. So it's really to bring different generations together. Of course, the next generation will inherit the solutions of the current generations and their decisions. So this is a gap that we are very much trying to bridge. The second gap is the opportunity gap. So there are less opportunities for youth, young scientists in particular, with our target audience, and in particular from the global south and from Africa, to be involved in decision-making processes when it comes to global biosecurity. So the Youth for Biosecurity is one of opportunity among others to get involved, and it tries to contribute to bridging the opportunity gap. A third gap that we're trying to bridge through the Youth for Biosecurity initiative is the science policy gap. So that's why I was saying that our target audience are youth, but particularly youth, young scientists, because not only have the next generation something to bring to the current generation, but when it comes to the BWC, science informs multilateral diplomacy. The BWC is a science-based treaty. It is impacted by scientific and technological development, such as gene editing, for instance, synthetic biology, and scientists have a role to play in the multilateral diplomacy discussions happening in the framework of the BWC. So by bringing young scientists to the BWC meetings, this initiative also tries to bridge that gap. And finally, the geographical gap. So the Youth for Biosecurity initiative focuses on the global south. To be eligible to the activities, you need to be from the global south. And we're trying here to bridge geographical gap because allegedly there are less voices from the global south that can be heard in Geneva, in particular during the global discussions on BWC. And Peter already, I think, highlighted some of the difficulties to be able to join those discussions. So that's an opportunity also to bridge that gap. Another way to present the objective of the initiative is to, in a nutshell, say that it's not only an education initiative, it's also facilitate action. So there are really two parts that the initiative aims at having in the programming is first to impart knowledge and skills. So it's more education focused, but this should be operationalized. So it's really this education, this knowledge or skill, the network that the initiative provides should really aim at empowering the youth to make their contribution. So there is an action-oriented aspect to the Youth for Biosecurity, and you can see here on the slide some of the way we conceptualize the program. So we impart knowledge, so youth can learn to be able to lead. So you can deepen your expertise and your skills to be able to lead some solutions in the future. Think to act. You engage in discussions, you discuss with your peers, with experts, to be able as well to refine the solutions you have at the biosecurity, to the solutions to biosecurity challenges. And then it's about the network as well. So the initiative is really about connecting with experts, diplomats, peers, other fellows, to build connections and collaborations, operational collaborations in the future. And we've seen many of that in the alumni network. So the initiative, as I was saying, exists since 2019, and it's been developing over the past years despite COVID. So as you can see on the slide, we've started in 2019 with a Youth for Biosecurity workshop. At the time, it was called a workshop. It was in person in Geneva for 4 days, and then COVID 19 hit, so we transitioned to the virtual mode, and it actually allowed us to develop the initiative, have more fellows, have more experts as well, talk about more issues. So in 2021 and 2022, we had the second online Youth for Biosecurity workshop and the third online Youth for Biosecurity workshop. In 2023, we were able to upgrade the program and have a fellowship. So we kept the online part and we added a 1 week visit to Geneva during an official BWC meeting. You can see here as well on the slide that we had some product delivered by the youth that we involved. In December 2021, the Youth for Biosecurity representative drafted and published the Youth Declaration for Biosecurity, which is a call to action to diplomats, to BWC state parties to strengthen biosecurity. It's available online and you can still endorse it. And in December 2022, in the margins of the 9th review conference of the BWC, a group of youth representatives from different networks also drafted, building on the youth declaration, youth recommendations for the review conference. So it's 20 recommendations on decisions to be taken at the review conference. So there have been, this is this action, this empowering part that I was mentioning just before. As you can see on the top of the screen here, we one of the milestones that we hit in the initiative is also the increasing number of applications we received. So last year, we received over 800 applications to the program, to the fellowship. Those applications came from over 80 different countries from the Global South. And this is an increase by more than 500% in comparison with previous years. So the program is more and more visible and attracting more and more youth as well. This is a brief infographic on the milestones that the initiative has reached. So you can see that now we have, since 2019, 100 young life scientists trained. The network is 100 alumni big. All those alumni come from 48 countries in the Global South. We have actually more women scientists than men scientists represented, which is for us also an objective to empower women. If youth are underrepresented in global biosecurity discussions, women are also underrepresented. So when, in the case of youth, young women scientists, those diversity, inclusion, and equality objectives intersect. So 46 women from the Global South. It's a mix of interactive online sessions and in-person training. I've already mentioned that. And each year we involved a growing number of experts and speakers, and it's approximately 40 per year. So the participants get to really interact with a diverse range of biosecurity experts from a diversity of background and countries. A quick word now on the last edition. So the last edition was the first fellowship with an online part and an in-person part, the one in which Dufan, Peter, and Faith participated. So in terms of timeline, as you can see, we started the call for applications in March, and we used the International Day for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation Awareness on 5 March to launch the call for application. And then over a period of over months, the selection happened. It took some time because again, it's more than 800 candidates applied. And then the program really started in May with the online biosecurity workshop. So we had 7 sessions covering a different topic every time with different speakers. It was really more of the education part, although we tried to also have interactive features. And then end of June, and July was the preparation for the field visit, and also the fellows were working on the poster. It was a collaborating project that fellows worked on, and that they presented in Geneva. And then in Geneva, during the working group of the BWC, the in-person field visit was organized, providing an opportunity to the fellows to attend the meeting, to meet with stakeholders, to talk to stakeholders, and to also visit different actors based in Geneva, having a role on global biosecurity. And we ended the program on the International Youth Day on 12 August. Here you have again some stats about the 2023 Youth for Biosecurity Fellowship. There were 20 fellows from 17 countries. The average age was 29 years old, so we had quite a diverse age group represented, but it's quite young overall. Gender equality was also an important thing for us. And again, 7 interactive online sessions, more than 40 experts. Also, more and more states parties are getting interested in talking to the youth and hearing from the youth. So this year we had over 10 diplomats representing states parties that interacted with the fellows. And we had a poster competition and a side event, which were really the moment where the fellows could talk to the diplomatic community. And here I wanted to show you, to stop for a minute and show you a quick video, if that's okay. Let me just try and share the video. Okay. So yeah, I think that a video will say more about the program than me talking. So I just would like to share this 2 minutes video with you, which basically will show what was done during the fellowship.
I think the best moments were when we were in this room, seeing how the diplomats talk and how they act with each other. We usually just see these things from the TV, and it's awesome to be here.
Favorite moment of mine was visiting the Space Laboratory. I have never been to BSL-4 lab. That was definitely different and definitely very inspiring.
fellowship is one of the most rare but also exciting opportunities for us to get a hands-on experience on working on biosecurity policies, getting to connect with stakeholders, decision makers, policymakers, and fellow peers who are as much interested in biosecurity field as we are.
This fellowship was really amazing. This last day where we had that summary, we gathered together to see how the youth voice count within the BWC.
Okay, so I think that was more illustrative of what the fellowship was about, and I hope that Dufan, Faith, Peter, and other alumni in the call were happy to see this video. This is the first time we were showing it, and I think you spotted yourself in the video. All right, let me reshare my screen and wrap up my presentation as I'm getting to the 20 minutes. So after the different editions of the Youth for Biosecurity program we had, we now have, that I mentioned it already, a growing network, really, in the alumni network. But we also have partners, and you can see on the screen some of the organizations that we have partnered with, joined forces with for different part of the programs, and for also sharing the call for applications. So a lot of the, if not all of the alumni we have in the network are part of the Youth for Biosecurity network, of course, but are part at least of one of other youth networks. So IGEM, the IFBA, NTI-LB Fellowship, Peter mentioned that already, etc., etc. So it is really a network of networks, and partnering is key to this initiative. Let me say a quick word about impact. I already mentioned the Youth Declaration for Biosecurity, the youth recommendations. Those are policy instruments, policy documents that are made by youth for diplomats, for decision makers in the BWC meeting. So that's really this is really the impact that youth can have through the initiative during BWC meetings. And a very good news as well we had in 2022 was that Panama and Kenya submitted together a working paper during an official meeting of the BWC. So a working paper is the way for states parties to suggest things to the other states parties to strengthen the convention. And so the Youth Declaration for Biosecurity was endorsed by Panama and Kenya, and they submitted this working paper to suggest to other states parties to strengthen youth involvement in the BWC. So it was very much an impact that the initiative had as well during the meeting on state party. I just want to say a quick word on the importance of Africa and African countries on the initiative. So you can see here a map of the applications received to the 2023 fellowship. And you can see that the map of Africa is fairly blue. So we received applications from most of the countries in Africa. And overall, the 70% of the applications were from African countries in 2023. So that's a big interest from Africa. A lot of talents, skilled biosecurity experts in Africa. Of course, the fellowship aims at being geographically balanced. So we had to select a number of I would say a limited number of African fellows, but we had to ensure balance with other regions of the world as well. But a lot of interest and a lot of skilled knowledge in Africa. Now 36% of the Youth for Biosec alumni are from Africa, and in particular Uganda and Nigeria represent an important cohort within those 100 alumni. So 10% for Uganda and 7% for Nigeria. The importance of Africa for the initiative is also the initiatives that the alumni from the region have taken, and I've listed there are pictures of 2 here in the screen, but there are much more, many more than I couldn't talk about in this slide. But you have the Synthetic Biology Association for Africa, SynBio Africa, which is a gathers, in particular, the founder of the initiative is a Youth for Biosec alumni, and a lot of alumni are also from this network. And also you have the image here in the center of the screen, at the bottom of the screen, a guideline, a handbook on biosafety and biosecurity, which has been designed by the Nigerian alumni of the Youth for Biosecurity network. So a lot of initiatives taken in the region from talented alumni. Okay, I want to conclude now, and I just want to conclude on 3 practical messages. So what in the audience, maybe some youth are interested in joining this initiative, what can you do now and in the months to come to get involved? First, you can endorse the Youth Declaration for Biosecurity. It's open for endorsement, and I'll share the link with you in the chat in a moment. And you can read through it, of course, and see what the youth have been working on and advocating for. Second, you can apply to the 2024 Youth for Biosecurity program. It's not released yet. We'll have a program in 2024. So keep an eye on our social media and our website to stay tuned. We'll also share the opportunity with our partners and our alumni. And if you can't apply, or if you don't want to apply, you can also share the opportunity in your networks at the national level, local level. And if you are representing an organization and you want to collaborate, you want to do things for youth involvement on your side, and you might need resources, please feel free to get in touch with us. And you have here our contact details. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions. And Faith, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Remy, for that wonderful presentation. That was well detailed. Thank you for covering all the activities of the UNODA so far from 2019 to 2023, the declarations and all the publications the alumni have made. So this initiative is actually a great one, and I'm honored to be part of this initiative because it was very, very educative and impactful, from the engagement to meeting the diplomats to visitations, and how everything was really impactful. Thank you very much. So right now, if you're just joining us, we are speaking on the role of youth in strengthening the advancement of biosecurity in Africa. And we've had 2 speakers. We've had Mr. Peter, where he spoke about the topic and he gave us challenges and how to address those challenges. Then we have Mr. Remy, who gave us an overview of the activities in UNODA in promoting the involvement of youth in biosecurity. So right now, we'll be moving on to the next speaker, the last speaker for the day, Miss Dufan Abba. She'll be speaking on positioning youth for global biosecurity, for global opportunities in biosecurity. While we're expecting Ms. Dufan, kindly engage via the chat box, drop your comments and your questions and answer in the Q&A session. Ms. Dufan, you have the floor.
Hi, Faith. Thanks, everyone, from JET, and to Remy and Peter for speaking earlier. I just need a few seconds to pull up my presentation. So Faith, I'm not sure why this is giving me some delays, but I'm just trying to.
All right, that's fine. Kindly engage via the chat box and drop your questions in the Q&A session.
All right, I think it's up now. So I'm just going to put it on presentation mode. Does that work, Faith? Can everyone
Yeah, we can see
see
us.
my presentation?
Yeah, we can.
So hi everyone. It's good to speak to you all today, and I will be presenting or talking on positioning youth for global opportunities in biosecurity. And I'll be talking on two major themes. The first is what industry and academic professionals can do to position youth for biosecurity opportunities, and what young people themselves can do to position youth themselves for biosecurity opportunities. I'm going to be very practical and direct as possible. So we're going to move on to what industry and academic professionals can do. And the first I have is mentorship. This is particularly for people who probably are at senior roles in organization or have years of experience working in the biosecurity sector or health sector in general. And the first is mentorship and teaching. From my experience, I find that a lot of young people have ideas of what they want to do or what they want to become in the sector. But the huge question is, where can they start? And that's where professionals can mentor and teach young people where to pick up from. Professionals should be available to guide young talents into career development. I like to clearly always say that I'm a product of proper mentorship. And just to give a shout out, I put on the right of the slide one of my supervisors from my last job and how instrumental he was in ensuring that I understood what I was supposed to do as a staff, and also really just opening a world of opportunities to me as an earlier career professional at the time. So I'm still again emphasizing the need for mentorship. And I would like to see that professionals can always ask young people what they want to do and refine their thoughts toward what's best. Like I said, a lot of young people have ideas, but usually need refinement in that sense. When I first graduated university or college, if you want, I had a couple of interests, but I wasn't sure where I wanted to start from. And I remember speaking to a professor of mine who put before me two career paths and told me the advantages of each of them and asked me to choose what I wanted that better suited my passion. And that's a key role that professionals and academic play in guiding the next generation of young scientists on the African continent and beyond, because I see from the participant that we have a lot of representation from around the world. And the next on the list is sharing resources. There are a lot of resources out there, and based on your experience as a professional, you tend to have more ideas and more, should I say, networks. And we can always share these resources to young people so that they can explore. I'm going to talk a bit about that in subsequent slide. Another way to share resources is to delegate tasks to young scientists. I have seen from my experience in the professional sector that some of us were privileged to have bosses who would ask us to represent them at meetings. That is a way to share resources. So young professionals can network, build skills, and just meet people in the sector. The next point is internship and training program. As a professional, I would like to first start by saying we need to reframe our perspective as to what internship and training programs are. For many of us, when we talk about internship and training program, we immediately begin to imagine big organizations like Microsoft and Google and all those things. But sometimes internship and training is not something so grand or excessively grand as the other companies I had earlier mentioned. The challenge with looking at these opportunities as, oh, it's the role of maybe one of the big fives, is that you don't see the role you can play as a professional in training young scientists. And so disengaging from the mindset that an internship or training program has to be so grand helps us to better engage young people. Again, I'll share experience from my personal journey. At the time I finished my first master's degree, I had a professor who was working in Nigeria at the time and also working in the UK. But one of the things he did to really improve my strength in research was to invite me to write papers with him. I remember we were writing a paper on hypercholesteremia in Nigeria, and he asked me, oh, I'd like to invite you to collaborate with me on this. And he threw me in. I wasn't necessarily so experienced in writing research, but that little opportunity to train on the job really helped me to build my skills. And that is a task that professionals and people in academia on this call can take. You don't need to have a structured internship program for young scientists. You can invite them to your labs and have them do tasks that really throws them into the world to figure out where they want to do. And the last I would like to really emphasize is teach them how you think. um, People in the professional sectors are constantly making decisions, and young people need to understand why you think policy for biosecurity is important, why you think it's important for us to strengthen lab capacity in Africa, and all these things. And not just saying, oh, as a young person, you should do A or B, but why do you make the decisions you make as a professional or an academic? And take young people into the thought process so they too can help themselves make better decisions as professionals and young people in science. So I'd like to briefly talk about what mentorship is and what mentorship is not from a young person's perspective. I want to say that mentorship is skill development, which means help young people develop specific competencies through constructive feedback. I once had to encounter someone who just came to work for us, and he was asked to work in the genomic sequencing lab. And I know that for many of us from low and middle income countries, we often don't get as much skills as we need from our academic programs. And when we come into the job sector or the work sector, we don't have as much skills. So our self-efficacy to engage in roles as a scientist is not there. And so I remember the young man being really scared to engage in the genomic sequencing lab. And after what I believe was a 30 minutes conversation, I successfully compelled him to work in the lab. And his problem was just fear. He was afraid that he would underperform in the lab, and he needed someone to push him and say, hey, you have the basic skills and you can engage and get in. The next point is guidance and support. So when mentoring young professionals, particularly young scientists, you should guide and support them. And guidance doesn't mean providing all the solutions like I have put in what mentorship is not. It means helping them to gain clarity in their thoughts of science on the continent. So you're not just saying this is the information you want, but you're saying, okay, I want to know what you're thinking as a young scientist, and I want to guide you through so you can make better decisions. That is guidance and support. It's totally different from just providing solutions on the onset. And I'll go to the last one on what mentorship is. Mentorship is role modeling. I cannot overemphasize what role modeling is. It is demonstrating professionalism and ethical behavior so young people can learn. For example, in Africa, we have a lot of labs that are coming up. As someone who leads a lab or someone who is way ahead, we expect that you demonstrate professionalism. For example, if you're implementing, say, standards in your lab, it's either you implement the best standards or don't teach us to implement substandard standards if you want. So it's very important that we have people in the professional sector demonstrating professionalism to us so we can learn as better scientists and stick to international guidelines. A brief overview of what mentorship is not for the professionals. Mentorship is not only providing solutions or telling young people, young scientists what to do, but guiding them to make those informed decisions. And Mentorship is not micromanagement, which is controlling young scientists' decision and forcing them to think the way you think. That is not mentorship. We want young scientists that are innovative. So you give them a bit, and then they can use the bits you've given them to produce a lot more, and just be innovative and creative in terms of policies, in terms of strategies to improve science literacy and dual use research literacy on the continent. And I'd like to wrap up this session by saying mentorship is not passive effort. I've been privileged to mentor a number of young people, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time from us. All of us are busy people. But if we must train the next generation of young scientists on the continent, those of us who are professionals or who've been in the sector for many years must be active enough to deliberately and intentionally set examples for young people. And you could maybe have a staff in charge of internship in your lab. And it mustn't be something so grand, like I earlier said. Maybe have a department that consists of just one man who oversees young people in your office and guides them. I'll move to the next slide. So I would like to end that session by saying to the professionals in our midst and those of us who will be professionals and mentor others is, what I would like to say is, if you won't mentor, at least leave young scientists the way you met them. So the thought here is always focus on positively impacting young people. If you cannot positively impact them, then it's best you do not engage them at all. And I'll give a very practical example. Like I earlier mentioned, teach them to implement standard biosecurity protocols in lab or procedures, but do not teach them subpar or substandard standards in the lab. That's just an example of why we must leave young people better or the same way we found them and not worse than they were when we got into mentorship or they came to work for us and all that. So the next part, which I would like to talk about, is what young people can do. And this is really important because from my experience, what prevents a lot of Africans and young scientists in Africa from accessing global opportunities is just simple issues like unawareness and others, which I would detail in the next slide. So what are practical steps? And I coined this slide, personal push. And the first on the list is be aware and don't bury your head in the sand. Before a young person can be aware of things like Remy talked about, the biosecurity initiative for youths from low and middle income countries, you need to be aware of what's happening. I was able to get a slot in the program because I was aware. Simply, if I wasn't aware, no matter how exceptional my profile is or exceptional the work I had done before now was, I wouldn't have been part of that initiative simply because I was not aware. Another thing awareness does is allows you to explore your interest. Personally, I have changed career trajectory maybe like 2 or 3 times. I started up in science and I went into a bit of consulting and then I came back into infectious diseases. So if you're not aware of the opportunities that exist in biosecurity, you won't be able to explore and find what best fits your interest. And the second one is really important for young people to access global opportunities is improve your writing and speaking skills. Having exceptional writing skills allows you to access great opportunities. You might have great ideas, but if you cannot communicate in writing, the ideas end with you. So push yourself, work on writing skills. And I can't overemphasize how important this one is. I have been able to review, should I say, applications written by young people. And one of the common things I find out is that a lot of young people from Africa can't write as well as they should. And writing is a skill that can be improved. So this is really important. The third one is understand why you missed the last opportunity. A lot of us feel like if I lost an opportunity, then it means they don't want me. But what happens most of the time is that you're not a fit for that opportunity, or you didn't just put the best application possible. So it's not enough to say, oh, I didn't get the opportunity. It's also, or I didn't get to work in the lab, or I didn't, all these things. It's also important to ask yourself, why didn't I get this opportunity, and improve from there on. And the fourth rather is persistence. I like to say that life is a competition. Only the fittest survive. If you want to thrive in the biosecurity sector, you must be persistent, you must be aware, and you must improve yourself. And the last is humility. We have to be humble enough to learn as young people. Because I'm running out of time, I'll move to the next slide. And I like to focus on this slide, and I particularly like this statement that says, the fact you're on social media and the internet doesn't mean you are aware. Engage the right resources. A lot of young people on the internet, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and all these amazing platforms, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are aware. You could be on LinkedIn and not even be aware of biosecurity opportunities because you're not engaging the right resources. So I think one of the practical steps we can take after this webinar is to engage the right resources, engage the right pages that improve your writing, improve your awareness of science, improve your awareness of biosafety and biosecurity. Then on this slide, I put like 6 organizations that can help you do that. Remy has talked about the Youth Biosecurity Initiative, and I think Peter mentioned Synthetic Biology Africa. These are all organizations you could get to learn more about biosafety and biosecurity. There's iGEM. There's a lot of opportunities for young people to gain exposure on the global platform. So I definitely recommend something you subscribe. I don't know if you'll check that out. And here is to end the presentation of my work so far. The first picture, just again to emphasize the fact that it's not easy to access these opportunities. You have to put in the work. The first was somewhere in a border community in Nigeria. Why I like that picture a lot was the woman there speaks Hausa, and I don't understand Hausa, but somehow because of the work we're doing, we had to find a middle ground and communicate with each other, not understanding each other's languages. The other is somewhere in a government house in Nigeria, again. It's just to put forth the fact that even as a young professional, I had switched quite a number of careers before finding where I fit, and the importance of exploring and being aware. The last picture is me working in a molecular biology lab. So I went from management consulting to working on the field and now to working on the lab. To end this presentation, I would like to say opportunities won't fall on your lap. Remy is busy, Peter is busy, so we don't have all the time in the world to send people opportunities. You have to push. You have to go out there and engage with the right resources. You have to work hard to build yourself, and then you can see, and we're happy to reach out. Personally, I'm on LinkedIn. I can share my email. I may not respond in a day or two, but I would definitely get to it. So opportunities, again, won't fall on your lap. You have to become a better person and push. So lastly, this is a picture from our engagement in August for to take the conversation further and talk. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dufan, for that wonderful presentation. That was a well-detailed presentation, giving us the practical steps in which young adults and young individuals can take to go into the biosecurity space. You mentioned be aware, improve on your skills, understand why you lost the last opportunity, then be persistent and be humble, want to learn more. Don't feel you know everything. Don't feel at this point you are already there. So thank you very much, and thank you for speaking at this webinar. Personally, I think everything all the speakers have said, they are practical steps, and they are something you should go home and think about, go and work on it, and start practical steps, start working on it. That is how you'll be able to achieve a good result. So as regards this, Get as a publication, the 13th edition of our newsletter, focusing on the role of women and youth in preventing the proliferation of biological weapons, you can check on our website, www.getafrica.org. There are opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities for youth out there. Also, we have a very fantastic opportunity for researchers, scientists, which is the Get Journal of Biosecurity and One Health. It is a platform where you can share your research work, your original research article, your publications, your review articles, anything whatsoever at no cost. Like there's no cost attached. You just have to make sure you follow the guidelines, then you can follow the guide, you can check the website on www.getjournal.org. Ensure to follow the guidelines and submit your article. Right now, we are coming to the end of the webinar, and I would love to invite Miss Ifeoluwa Alabi to talk more about some things before we move to the question and answer. Thank you. Miss Ife, you have the floor.
All right, good afternoon, good morning, or good day to everyone joining us. It's so good to have everyone join us for this edition of Get Webinar Series. All right, so once again, I want to appreciate on behalf of the entire. All right. So sorry, I had a network glitch there. All right, so on behalf of the entire staff and the management of GET Consortium, we want to appreciate our esteemed speakers for joining us. It's been a very rich and enlightening session so far, from Mr. Peter to Mr. Remy and then Ms. Dufan. It's such the presentation from the first speaker to the last speaker has been so rich. I've been following, and indeed, that's been an amazing time to learn and also to interact and also to just see the amazing work and how youths can actually play their role. Once again, I must take this opportunity to especially appreciate the UNODA for the great work for creating space for youths. I think about 2 weeks ago, Mr. Remy invited me to be part of a workshop in Togo, where I was involved in the multilateral discussions by members of state parties as regards the implementation and the universalization of BWC across different West African countries. I mean, it's such an opportunity to learn and also to network with experts across the region. And I must say that I did enjoy the workshop. Thank you so much for sharing the opportunity with me. And indeed, the workshop has opened my eyes to see what is happening more on the continent with respect to BWC, and not just BWC alone, also with respect to biosecurity and biosafety. And then there's been several discussions that have been ongoing on how I myself as a youth can be part of this great movement. All right, the reason why I'm here, and I want to also appreciate my colleague, Faith. I'm also glad that I was also an alumnus of the Youth for Biosecurity Initiative. And immediately I had to make sure that I had to also make sure that my assistant, Faith, also joined the network, because the beautiful thing is, just as what Ms. Dufan has said, if you cannot mentor the youth, leave them the way it is. But the beautiful thing I always say again is that for all of us, for the youth, if you have the privilege of entering the big room, don't close the door. Make sure that you open the door wide so that all the youths can come in, because these experiences are life-changing. I must say it. I don't need to repeat what the speakers have said, but obviously you need to keep yourself abreast. You also need to keep yourself tapped. I mean, these are just like what Mr. Remy said, that over 800 applicants. And you can imagine 800, and we have just 20, scientists or 20 fellows were selected. It's highly competitive, and you'll need to definitely brace up. And one of the ways you can actually brace up is not so far-fetched. Number one thing is that you have to be very deliberate, and also you need to also keep yourself informed. And in the course of keeping yourself informed, I would like to say that my organization, Global Emerging Pathogens Treatment Consortium, organizes the biggest biosecurity conference on the continent, and the 9th edition of the conference is coming up in the month of November. And this is another opportunity for youth across the continent to be part of this, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the conference. The conference is in an hybrid format, in the sense that you can decide you can join the conference both on site and online. The conference is coming up from the 20th. It's a 2 days conference, 20th to 21st. So we're having the conference. The first day is on the 20th of November, and the second day of the conference on the 21st of November. I would also like to know that in case you've been following activities at the GET Consortium, the conference was previously scheduled to come up from the 4th of November to 3rd of November earlier, but because of some logistic arrangements, we had to postpone the conference. Now the conference is holding between 20th and 21st of November, and I want you to actually look forward to the conference to get a tab of what is going on, what the conference will be focusing on, and how youth can be part of this conference. You can simply follow us on our social media platform, which some of my colleagues have shared a link on our social media platforms. We are available on LinkedIn. I would also like to take reference to what Ms. Dufan said. Who are you following on LinkedIn? So you want to follow GET, you want to add GET to the amazing people or the network you are following on LinkedIn. You want to follow us on social media, you want to follow us on Twitter, you want to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and you also want to go on our Twitter. At the same time, you also want to visit our website. We're going to be sharing lots of information with respect to the conference coming up. The theme for this year's conference is focusing on synthetic biology and other emerging biotechnology. And then obviously, we're also going to be elaborating on how to advance biosecurity, biosafety, and One Health on the continent of Africa. I would like you to join. I would like you to register. You can simply go on the website www.getafrica.org/conference. I'm sure one of my colleagues is also going to share the link for everybody to actually, if you want to know more information on the conference. As the days unfold, we'll be sharing the speakers that will be coming on to join the conference, and the speakers, the highlights, the sections, the thematic areas for the conference. And I'm sure you will definitely want to join. It's always very amazing. The conference has, over the years, have had the presence of thousands of experts across the continent. And this year again, we're definitely going to have an amazing conference again. If you have any information, you need any information, or you want to partner with GET Consortium, because the conference is actually open to collaborations and partnerships across the continent, and not just across Africa alone, even though it's an African conference, but yet the conference is open to, to experts, to scientists, to researchers across the globe. So if you want to be part, you can simply send us an email. My colleague should definitely send us should put the email address you can send if you're interested in partnering with us, or you want to exhibit, or you want to hold a section during the conference. The opportunity is still open. You can simply send an email to bobadoyed@getafrica.org. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an amazing period, and well done to Faith. All right, so Faith will continue with the moderation as she, in the next, we should be wrapping up the webinar very soon, but Faith will be coordinating the question and answer, because I can see here that we have quite a lot of questions that our audience want to ask some of our speakers. All right, so Faith, please, you can have the floor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ifeoluwa, for that wonderful speech.
This question, indeed, it's been a question that has been raised by several participants in the chat. So there is no internationally agreed under 40 years old, everyone under 40 years old was eligible to our programs. The logic behind it is that we know that for, say, a PhD student, well, for a candidate to just take on a PhD studies and a postdoc, it takes some time. So we wanted to open the opportunity to those who also had more studies. So yeah, under 40 until now, and we're considering, of course, we're receiving more and more applications. So we might reduce the age limit, lower the age limit, sorry, in the future as well. That's something we've been considering. We, of course, are always trying to consider as well younger candidates. So if you are 20 years old or 19 years old, you don't have, of course, the same experience as a 35 years old, but do apply, because we do consider your age when reviewing your application, and it doesn't mean that if you're younger and you have less experience, you won't be selected. Over to you, Faith.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer. Also, there's also a question you've answered, but I would like you to address it again. How do you select the young participants to join Biology Weapon Convention?
Yes, that's a good question. So first, like we were just talking about the age, there are other eligibility criteria. So you have to be from a lower and middle income country. Dufan mentioned that as well. So you have to be from the global south. You have to be from a state party to the BWC, and it's preferable, but I wouldn't say it's not exclusively it's not an exclusive selection criteria, but we look for young scientists. So if you have a background in life science, that's also a selection criteria. Although we had this year, for instance, in a 2023 cohort of fellows, one of the fellow did not have a scientific life science background, but a social science background. So we also can consider non-life scientists if they have specific background and motivation and experience on the BWC and on biosecurity. So the eligibility criteria is the first way we select, and then we ask candidates to share with us their academic professional background, their motivation, and how they think they can be a multiplier, and how they will use what they learn during the program to continue their career and their advocacy journey into biosecurity. So we take all those answers into account as well. And we have the third thing I want to say, we have an international jury panel that does the final selection. So that would be a panel with biosecurity experts and alumni from the network. We are trying to have more and more youth biosecurity experts in the jury panel, and this jury selects ultimately the final cohort of fellows.
Thank you, Remy, for the answer. Now I'd like to direct this question to Ms. Dufan. Ms. Dufan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, there's a question from Alice Alma. He's asking what are the best practices to encourage or entice our youth regarding biosecurity, since majority are hooked to social media?
I think the biggest issue is awareness, in my opinion. Again, I haven't done any professional study about this. This is my personal observation, is awareness, because I come from a life science background. And I know a lot of us don't even know things like BSL4, biosecurity levels and all that, even after we graduate. So engagement, I would like to say we can start off with programs on our campuses. That's the best way to get these people. After graduation, some people move from life sciences to the fashion industry and or whatnot. So the best place to engage people is on our campuses in Africa. That's where we find the biggest cohort of young people or young scientists interested in these issues we discussed today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you have any other question, kindly drop it on the question and answer box. But we'll be winding up the webinar shortly as we are running out of time. Kindly engage on all our social media platforms, on our YouTube channel, on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, Getting of Biosecurity and One Health is currently open. You should submit your research article, original research article, and we publish twice in a year. So the next publication is by December. We look forward to receiving your manuscript. Thank you very much. Thank you, our distinguished speakers. Thank you for accepting to speak. Thank you for the wonderful presentations. We greatly appreciate you. And to our wonderful participants, thank you for staying tuned to this time. Thank you very much for joining. I would like to bring the webinar to a close. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon, good morning, good wherever you're from. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.